Shalom and good day all, this is Tehillim29 back again for another indie comic review, and in this indie comic review I will be reviewing StreetFighter and Onyx. I'll get things prepared to cover the first one that will be reviewed first, and then we'll make a start into the main. So as we start off this video, I'll be starting on Onyx. And for those who are new to the channel, there are some certain areas that I personally enjoy checking out and also rating in relation to each comic. So the first area is the cover. Does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that's happening inside with the story? Sure enough it does, to which I give it an 8 out of 10. I'll now go to showing some of the internal art as well as some of the things that are happening inside internally story-wise, to which the art will then get its rating after we see the beginning, middle, and of course the end. So as we start to have a look around the beginning of the story, we have the character of Onyx, who is going up against a lot of these beasties, these evil beasties. And as you can see here, this character, yes, is actually female, and you know what, I'm not too worried about that. And as you can see here, they leave quite a bit of destruction, but they've also got an interesting type of suit of armor, as they also appear almost like to a cyborg of sorts. So as we start to jump towards the middle of the story, we can see that Onyx doesn't work alone, but they do actually have like a bit of a support group, which also back them up. And they too also fight against some of the big bad beasties. So in a way, it's a little bit like a Halo type feeling, even though it's not. And as we finally jump towards the end of the story, there are 4 chapters in this, and it would take quite a while for me to show you every chapter that is actually in this. So this is why I showed the beginning, middle, and end, or towards the end. And as you can see here, they finally finish off for the day. So for the internal art, I gave it a 7 out of 10. Now it's time to move to the story rating. Seeing that this is a one-shot, there will not be any need for any, say, comic book references. The next one that I'll be covering too is also a bit of a StreetFighter one-shot, and there won't be any need, again, for any comic references for that either. So first things first, did we get any indication of time when it was taking place? No, we didn't. No, it probably wouldn't hurt to include it in the story. Moving into the next area, and that is locations, because locations are actually important in a story. It lets you know some of the things that are happening, maybe in the background to what the character is doing, as well as who the character is meeting up with in certain areas. So what locations do we end up going to? To start off, Korab 79. That's what we see at the beginning of the book, even though I didn't get to show you the very beginning of the book. We then move into the area of Lagos, Nigeria, which was really interesting, and we got to meet a number of the support crew. There was the International Global Defense. We also encounter a foundry, and last but not least, a jungle impact zone, which links to many of those nasty beasties which they're actually going up against. The cast of characters consisting of Onyx, we had Harold, Talia, Kaleem, Gabra, we had Cap, and a couple of others, Castle being one, Loner being another, and Boom being another character. Overall story rating for this, I gave a 7.5 out of 10. I definitely recommend you pick it up. It was worth to read, especially if you read something in a bit of a one-shot story. I think there might be more to this series, but I just decided to pick up this one issue. So now I'll get things prepared to cover the StreetFighter one-shot. So, as we begin to move into the StreetFighter one-shot, does this cover in any way, shape or form connect to something that's happening inside with the story? Sure enough it does, to which I give it an 8 out of 10. I'll now move to showing some of the internal art around the beginning, middle and end, as well as seeing some of the things that happen story-wise. Starting now. So, as the story begins, as you can see here, Udon aren't afraid to show the cheesecake. But we do get a bit of a scene that's happening at a pool. And, of course, we can see that there's somewhat the younger generation that are also inspired by these characters, male as well as female. You see they're not afraid to show actual equity and equality in a story. And of course we move into the next scene, and you can definitely see some of the characters trying to imitate their heroes until we get an appearance of Cammy. I'll now move towards the middle of the story. So as we start to move towards the middle of the story, Chun ends up getting back to work, and we can see here that she ends up visiting a bit of a village connected to Beijing, and gets a bit of a work and realizes, okay, these people seem to be using psycho power of sorts, and she believes they might be working for Bison. So moving into the last part, her day of course finishes up. She catches up with one of her students, or if not, it might even be her daughter there. And we also get a bit of a hint as to what the next one will be that'll be coming out. And you know what? I wouldn't mind picking that up. So for the internal art, I gave it an 8 out of 10 alongside with the cover. But how about the story? How does the story rate? First things first, do we get anything time related? Well, seeing that this is a one-shot, it doesn't need really any comic references, though if they wish to include any comic references, it would only up the score. Next thing is location, to which we had Beijing, China, we had the waterfront park, resort, we had Shadowloo being brought up in a discussion. We also had Dongjong District and the Fugong Village, which was actually seen around the middle of the story. The cast of characters consisting of Chung Li, Miao Yin, we also had Cammy, talk of Bison, and Miao Yang. The overall story rating for this was a 7.5 out of 10. Until then, let's keep it colourful and have yourself an awesome day.